Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now without further ado, let's begin. This story was created by a throwaway account in the relationship advice subreddit. The post is titled, I am 22F and my twin has slept or tried to sleep with every single one of my boyfriends. I don't want her to meet my current BF 23M of 8 months. This has happened with every single guy I've dated or been interested in. I've only had 3 relationships before my current one with John. My twin sister Sarah has tried to interfere with all of them. 2 of my exes cheated on me with her. The third we broke up for other reasons, but Sarah still tried to seduce him. He was a good guy and always had boundaries with her, but that didn't stop her from trying, to the point of sending him nudes multiple times, then claiming, "Oops, wrong person," when he told her he wasn't interested. When that didn't work, she also tried to break us up by lying to my ex and our mutual friends that I was cheating. My ex didn't believe her, but some friends did. So yeah, that was fun to deal with. Then, when we were kids, like in middle or high school, if Sarah found out I had a crush, she went after the guy herself. I used to tell her those things because, well, isn't that what sisters do? She always used it against me. I told her I was working up the courage to ask my crush or the guy I was talking to prom. She then asked him, and he said yes. She said he'd just been using me to get to her. Another time, a few years before that, she announced to everyone in a class we shared that I liked this one boy who got bullied a lot. Kids then started teasing him even more, and he hated me. I felt horrible for months. She thought it was the funniest thing ever. She also once told a teacher whose class I was doing badly in that I was into him and willing to do favors for better grades. That got reported, and I had to go through this whole counseling thing before it was finally cleared up. It was extremely embarrassing. My sister just blew it off as a prank. There are so many other situations like this. She either gets guys who are interested in me to sleep with her, or ruins my chances with them by making up bullshit to make me look bad. She's ruined some of my friendships by lying about me too. Told my best friend in high school I was gossiping meanly about her and went so far as faking text messages. I don't know if she even actually wants these people for herself. You might think it's obviously jealousy, but sometimes I honestly think she just gets a kick out of messing with me. Anyway, I finally got my life more together after wasting the first couple years of college on being depressed and a gaming addiction. I met my boyfriend John at a campus organization. I haven't told Sarah, but he ended up meeting my parents by accident today. I don't have much contact with them, but they decided to come for a surprise visit. They live over 5 hours away and do this a few times a semester, even though I've said I don't like it. But that's for another post. John was in my room with me when they got here. I had no choice but to introduce them. He knows I was holding off on having them meet because I don't have the greatest relationship with them. Sarah lives at home with my parents while going to college locally. I'm certain they're going to mention meeting my boyfriend, and then cue her insisting on coming with them the next time they surprise visit me, also stalking my social media to try to figure out who he is. I've tried to explain the issues I have with her to my parents. They think I'm overreacting. They say she just wants to know what's going on in my life. To be involved? Yes, that is the problem. Her involvement. And not to mention, we used to be closer before I lost trust in her to stop doing this shit, so I've seen what her own life is like. She does things my parents have no idea of. She takes party drugs sometimes. This wouldn't be a big deal, but she has no idea how to be responsible. She drives people around while drunk and high. My parents think she's with a friend studying on weekends, but she's actually clubbing in the city and then crashes with her friends for the night. I'm not sure how many real boyfriends she's had, but she's hooked up with a lot of guys the same night she met them. This has meant a few times she was scared of pregnancy. I've had to help her get Plan B. It sometimes feels like she sleeps with nearly any man that smiles at her, and told me she's even had sex with a few girls while wasted. However, that's possible. She confides all these things to me, but whenever I need someone to talk to, she has no time. Never wants to hear anything unless she can save it as ammo. So I've gradually stopped telling her most things. If my parents knew all this, they might see where I'm coming from. It's not just random that I don't want her meeting my boyfriend. It's not because I want to hurt her or something. The problem is, our parents are really strict and traditional, and they'd probably kick her out if I told them any of that. They don't believe in sex before marriage. My boyfriend is the first person I've had sex with, and I'm afraid my sister could use that against me to them if she finds out. So what do? How can I keep Sarah from finding out about him and doing the same thing she's done with all my past boyfriends? How do I explain it to my parents? TLDR. My sister has a pattern of interfering with my relationships. She's gotten guys to cheat on me with her. My parents accidentally met him today and will probably tell her. How do I keep her away from him? A deleted user said, just prep your boyfriend and tell him all the stuff you just wrote here. If he knows ahead of time that she is likely to come on to him, then he can cut things off before it gets too far. Block her from seeing your friend list. It sucks that you have such a shitty sister and that you have to hide your relationship from her. User Crash Before NG said, it seems like she has massive insecurities about being a twin, and she takes it out on you. Regardless, my response is the same. Her inability to deal with her emotions is not an excuse to treat you like shit. Distance yourself. Immediately. Block her. Have your BF block her, and cut her out except for family obligations. If she asks, just tell her that you had someone invade your privacy on social media and you raised your privacy settings, which must have impacted her, and you'll check it when you have a chance. Be cordial and aloof. She's going to freak given that so much of her time is spent making your life miserable, but she is 5 hours away and you have a door lock and a phone. If she gets involved again, start documenting. There is something called a no contact order that can be put in place to keep her out of your life. Threaten it, inform your parents that you have researched and are considering it. It may make them think about your comments a little differently. User KW51 said, I was on your side until you started griping about her sex life outside your past relationships. Who cares if she has one-night stands or sleeps with women? It's not related to the problem with your boyfriend. Also, the quotation marks on sex in reference to her being with women pissed me off too. Why the quotes? There are other forms of sex besides PIV vaginal intercourse. So I've made a lot of changes in my family life since I posted this a couple of weeks ago. I first told everything to my boyfriend. He was shocked and assured me he'd never cheat on me with my sister or anyone else. He also respected that I didn't want her to meet him. I decided to take the advice given and block her on social media. She immediately noticed. Like within 10 minutes after I'd blocked her, she sent a text saying, did you block me on Instagram and Facebook? So I didn't beat around the bush. I said yes because I didn't like how she's messed with my personal relationships. She tried to guilt trip me about how I hadn't told her about my boyfriend, which means my parents must have told her about him like I knew they would. She exploded at me because according to her, she would never have tried to stalk him or anything, but I hadn't even gotten a chance to say I was worried she'd do this. She said it first, so what does that say? I told her I flat out didn't trust her to not try to take people from me. She called me psycho and selfish, but whatever, really. I can't reason with her. She just never sees the problem with anything she's done. The way she thinks makes it like arguing with a young child almost. I blocked her number. I still feel kind of bad doing this because what if there was an emergency and she needed me? But we live hours apart, so I hope my parents would be who she contacted in that case. Then, as for them, I also got a call from my mom soon after I blocked my sister. She wanted to know what I was doing because my sister was upset. She'd already heard my sister's side, which was just that I'd blocked her out of nowhere. So I tried to tell her my side. I did not tell her my sister's personal business about drugs and having sex. Like I said in the first post, I'm not going to fall to petty revenge. I just want her to stop interfering in my life. So all I said was that in the past, she's been inappropriate with guys I've dated and has spread rumors about me, and it made me unable to trust her. My mom then wanted to know what I meant by inappropriate. My parents are really conservative and don't believe in having sex before marriage. She also got my dad on the call at this point. I told them the details didn't matter. She kept trying to go back to this point, even wanting to know if I had been having premarital sex. It was really frustrating. I told them the point I'm trying to make is that my sister has broken my trust. They began saying I should forgive her because they care about our family and don't want to see us fighting. Well, I'm not exactly fighting. I'm simply not going to be in contact with her. To them, it's the same thing. Then they wanted me to come home for a weekend to discuss everything as a family. I said I wasn't going to do that I'd made my decision and have no time for a trip. They said they'd come to me then. That brought up how they show up for random visits even when I've said I don't like it. I told them I didn't want them doing that anymore, and if they did it again, I wouldn't let them in or talk with them, so they flipped out. That was fun. I got to hear all about how I'm constantly making problems and don't care about my family. I ended up having to block their numbers because they kept calling back, and blocking on Facebook because they were sending messages going back and forth between begging to talk and accusing me of being a terrible daughter and sister. I don't know what I'm going to do about them. They did threaten to stop paying for my college if I cut them out of my life. I unblocked them to say I want to be in touch with them and do love them, but I can't do the unexpected visits or them prying into my personal life. I said if they stop doing that, then I'm happy to have a relationship with them. They had a million reasons why I'm in the wrong. I couldn't deal with it and re-blocked them yesterday, so I don't know what my tuition deal is going to be now. My boyfriend, at least, has been really supportive during this shit. He thinks my parents are way out of line and my sister is crazy. He's really helped keep me as sane as I can be. Overall, I just feel really shitty. I wish any of them would ever listen to what I say. But if they won't, then what can I do besides put up with what you all pointed out was really controlling, or take more control back myself? It just sucks. It has to be so final, I guess. I wouldn't mind a middle ground like planning a visit with them once in a while, or talking with my sister about non-personal things, but they want way more than I do. TLDR. I'm not going to be in contact with my family for the foreseeable future. User, Little Joe Lion said, I know you don't want to be petty, but with all that pushback from your parents, I would just tell them the truth about all of it. Telling you you're wrong and threatening the status of your college tuition because it'll be too hard for them to handle the truth? Honestly, I'm so angry for you. I would have ripped that band-aid off immediately and told them exactly why I don't want her around. Don't let them keep a perfect picture of her while leaving a tainted picture of yourself. User, Dragonflies Love Me, said, OP, I think your sister is a narcissistic abuser and you are her target. She has convinced your parents over the years that you are the problem, not her. You are the scapegoat. If this assessment is correct, then you really are best to be no or very low contact with your sister, because it won't get better. It might seem like it at times, but she'll just be pulling you in as a setup to gain access to you and information about you, which she'll use against you. Your parents need to pull their heads out of their asses, but that would require them to admit to themselves that they've believed their pathological daughter all this time and enabled her. It's so much easier to just point the finger at the scapegoat. It sucks. But yeah, look up gray rocking or gray rock technique. This is mainly for your sister in the event you do actually have to communicate with her. User T. Paris said, you are setting boundaries and they don't like boundaries. You aren't in the wrong for setting boundaries. It's healthy to set boundaries. If they cannot respect boundaries and threaten you for setting them, then you shouldn't tolerate their behavior. It sucks that you lose your tuition, but stick to your guns. They either show you respect as an adult and respect your boundaries, or you cut them out. Those are their options. They don't get to harass, threaten, or scold you, and you don't have to listen to it. If their response isn't respect, you walk away, each and every time, until their attitude changes. Show them you are serious. Don't compromise your boundaries. User, for depth, said, I don't get why you don't get everything out into the open. People are afraid of honesty. You talk about not being petty, but your parents are confused by your reaction because they are literally clueless. Just my take, as now you are completely no contact with all of your immediate family as opposed to dealing with some fallout and rehabilitating your relationship with your parents. This next story was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named ColdReaction9554. The post is titled AITA for refusing to meet my mom after she went no contact with me for over a decade. So, a little background. I'm 35M and my parents divorced when I was 17. My dad struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, and my mom eventually left him, which I totally understood and supported. Living with him was impossible. He wasn't violent but verbally abusive, and he spent all our money on his habits. That was the last straw for my mom. After the divorce, my dad spiraled. He nearly overdosed and ended up in the ICU. I was living with my mom at the time, but I was scared that my dad would die, so I moved back with him and my uncle's family. My mom was disappointed but let me make my choice. Losing my mom, most of his friends, going broke, nearly dying finally got through to my dad, and he promised he would get better for me. It was hard to watch, but he actually turned things around. My uncle paid for everything: rehab, therapy, medical bills, and after about 5 years, my dad was clean and somewhat healthy again. He even apologized to my mom, and she forgave him, though she told me later it was only for my sake so that they could be civil at future events like my graduation or wedding. Over those years, I kept in contact with my mom, regularly met with her. She had moved on and met a great guy who she eventually married. She was much happier, and I was happy for her. I thought we had a pretty good relationship. That changed when I was 23. My mom asked me to come over, and she told me she was still angry and disappointed that I chose my dad over her after the divorce. She said I was ungrateful for everything she went through, putting up with my dad's shit, and then she hit me with something that still pisses me off today. She told me she could see me becoming a drunk and drug addict like my dad because I stayed close to him. I don't drink, I don't do drugs to this day, and I had no idea where that even came from. I was floored. I thought we had moved past all that, but apparently she'd been harboring resentment for years. Then, she said that she wanted to go no contact with me because being around me brought back too many bad memories of my dad. She said she had found peace and happiness, and I was a reminder of all the pain she'd been through. I didn't know what to say except, okay. I later found out from a cousin on her side that her whole family was pissed at me for staying with my dad back then, and they all went no contact with me for her sake, saying that I betrayed her. I haven't seen or heard from my mom since that day. Fast forward to now. My dad passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack, a result of his years of addiction. Despite being clean for over a decade, he had lingering medical issues. I recently got married, and my wife posted some pictures from the wedding on Facebook. My wife said a woman claiming to be a cousin contacted her. I looked at the message, and it was a cousin from my mom's side asking if it was really me in the pictures with my full name. I told my wife to ignore it, but then I got a call from my uncle later that same day, saying that my mom showed up at his house. For context, the house where my uncle lives currently used to be the home where I grew up with my parents. My uncle said she asked him to arrange a meeting between us, saying she wants to apologize to me face to face. He told me he can set it up if I want. Honestly, after all these years, I feel nothing for her except maybe slight resentment for thinking that I would turn out as an addict. I was going to say no right away, but my wife thinks that's a shitty thing to do, and I should at least hear her out, let her apologize, and then go back to never seeing her again if I want. She says despite what she did shield me from most of Dad's addictions growing up. Now I'm having second thoughts. AITA if I refuse to meet her? User Coco Almonds Rock said NTA. You have to go with your gut. It has been 10 years and she has discovered that you didn't become an addict and instead have created a happy life. You're married, which means there could be grandkids in the future. Are you happy without her? If you've moved on without that side of the family, if you've created your own happy family, then why rock that boat? Your wife may not be able to let it go though, and if you turn your mother down, you're going to have a lot of flying monkeys contacting you and your wife to tell you how cruel you're being. I couldn't deal with that personally. I don't do drama. She made a choice, and you've respected it. I'd say no and be ready with the block feature. User, Forget-Me-Not-Snot said, what your mom said to you is outrageous. How could she bring her issues to you? That's not okay. Adult issues need to stay with them, not you. You're still their child. I wouldn't meet up with her to hear her out. It's a smokescreen. She needs to feel better about being shitty, not to talk to you. She wants forgiveness for the unforgivable so she can F off. She projected her feelings of your dad onto you. You didn't choose your dad over her. You stood up and helped take care of him, and you did a great job. If no one says this, I'm proud of you for stepping in and your uncle to help him. It sounds like you both did well. Kudos. You owe her nothing. Your wife needs to take a step back and see the pain this has caused you and support you rather than push you into this. It's up to you, and she needs to stay in her lane. I too have had issues with family, and my hubby would never ever ask me to just meet up to hear them talk. If she loves you, she'll stay in her lane. In OP's update, they said the following. I didn't expect the amount of comments I got on the first post. Thank you to everyone who weighed in, whether you agreed with me or not. There were so many different perspectives, and I've taken time to think about everything. First, I want to talk about this. A few of you said I abandoned my mom when I went to live with Dad. It looks that way when I think about it now. However, I feel I never abandoned her in any way. I loved my mom dearly, and I loved my dad too. When she told me she was divorcing Dad, I helped her pack. I left with her as I thought at the time Dad was a lost cause. I went back about 7 months after the divorce when my dad was fighting for his life. That was when he promised me he would change and get help. I chose to stay with Dad after getting permission from Mom. As I said in my first post, she was disappointed but agreed Dad needed me. Even after I chose to stay with my dad and uncle, I always stayed in contact with her. My mom and dad lived about 20 minutes apart, and I made sure to see my mom regularly, 4 to 5 times a week at least. I would talk to her every day too. We went on trips together, ate meals together, and hung out as much as we could. When she moved in with her new husband, who I will call John, she always included me in her new family's life. John was good to me too. For all that time, there was not even one inclination of the resentment Mom had for me when she blindsided me with the decision to go no contact. I was completely shocked. She never expressed any anger or frustrations toward me. We never argued, and she never showed she was upset about my relationship with my dad until that day. After she blocked me from everyone, I tried for a couple of years to reconnect, but eventually gave up when I moved out of the city. On to the update. A lot of you told me to meet her for closure, while others said not to bother. After thinking about it for a while, I had decided to meet her and was going to tell my uncle to set up a meeting with her. But before I could tell him, my uncle called me again, 3 days after my mom showed up at his house. He told me she came by again and gave him a letter for me, and she apologized for bothering him and that she wouldn't be coming by again, and she didn't want to raise my hopes unnecessarily and hoped I would understand after I read the letter. Uncle said she sounded very sincere. I asked my uncle to send me pictures of the letter. It's not that long, and I'll summarize the important bits. The letter was a mix of apologies and well wishes. She wrote she was sorry for how she treated me back then, especially for saying I'd turn out like my dad. She said she was going through some relationship issues with John, and then seeing Dad getting better made her feel bitter because Dad never tried for her. She thought her second marriage was failing, and everyone around her was happy while she was miserable. She said she listened to some bad advice and she regrets it. She said she regrets taking her anger all out on me when she should have gotten help. She said she made up lies to her side of the family so that they would side with her. I do not know these lies, as this is what she only wrote. She said she got help a couple of years after she went no contact but was too ashamed to reach out to me. She saw the wedding pictures and is happy for me, wishing me the best in my life. She wrote that while she initially wanted to meet me, after some reflection and with her family's advice, she realized it was for selfish reasons and for her own sake only. She apologized again and said it's better if we keep things the way they are. She ended the letter by saying she's happy and she doesn't want to drag up the past. She apologizes once more and wrote she won't contact me again for both our sakes and asked me not to contact her as well and wished me and my wife well. So there's that. Honestly, it's probably the best outcome, and I'm at peace with it. I am happy with my life, and I am glad Mom is happy with her life. Like she asked, I am not going to contact her, but I will keep my door open if she wants to meet in the future. I also realized how stupid I was to hold on to my resentment of her comment about me becoming an addict. I also want to address the comments that said my wife was overstepping. My wife knows all about my past and about my mom. She is a kind soul who sees the best in people. Like I said in a comment in my first post, she was just looking out for me. She wanted me to have no regrets. She did apologize for saying it would be shitty not to meet Mom, but it's all good. We both know each other's boundaries. We communicate well. Right now, we're planning our honeymoon and life is good. Thanks for all the supportive messages and comments. Truly appreciate it. Bye. User, Strong Opinion for Life said, honestly, from what I'm understanding, she decided not to break NC because she would have to tell the truth to her family about all the lies she told them. You lost a part of your family because she was a liar. How selfish and disgusting can this woman be? She doesn't regret anything because if she did, she would come clean. User, Royal Beck said, so your mom is a liar, and when she finally got help a couple of years after going NC, she decided not to fix this shit she broke way back then? Even if she couldn't find you, why didn't she tell her side of the family that she lied to turn them against you? At least they could have tried reaching out to you separately and apologizing. I'm going to guess that this new letter is the equivalent of breaking up with someone before they can break up with you. That way she can feel better about still not having contact with you, and if you do reach out to her still, then it's like you're begging her for attention and love.